Hello viewers, me and team here. Welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls. We're up to part 6 now. And yes, I started running down there. Partially because of the farming, but also because I'd forgotten about something. Something important. Something I need. I don't know how many of you have ever attempted to fight the boss of New Londo Ruins without, say, the Covenant of Artorias, but it wouldn't end well. And in fact, since I didn't kill Ingward, we even got to hear why that is. Because the Abyss will kill you instantly if you're not wearing that ring. So, I realized that I should probably come down here and maybe go get that ring before continuing on. Yep, that's probably a good idea. And I'll go ahead and give him the Ember, even though it's pretty apparent that I'm actually not going to be using it too much in this particular run.
No, quite alright.
But not before trolling him. No! No! They just had to place that message in a way that you get stuck reading it. I do find that amusing, but it's not going to get you a whole lot of humanity from people liking your message. But whatever, I'm going to upgrade the bow a little bit here. At this point I wasn't decided what I wanted to take up to Chaos, so having a bow upgraded a little bit does allow it to do some damage to people in PvP. Hit them with a couple poison arrows or whatever. And then just having a look at what else he's selling. It does occur to me after buying all that I don't have the way to get the shortcut in the forest, unfortunately. And now I'm probably strong enough to beat this guy. I've probably been strong enough to beat this guy for a long time, but now I'm going to bother. It's like a ritual of mine. Even if I don't use something that needs Demon Titanite, I just like killing this one in particular because it's easy. But it is worth your while to pick up Demon Titanite in general. And with the exception of maybe like the Lost Izalith one that respawns all the time, and if you don't want to deal with the one in Orlando, I can't really blame you. But otherwise, it's worth it on a run to grab those. Because you never know if you're going to use something that needs a boss soul. Man, where was that blooming moss clump earlier in my playthrough? I usually get some when I come through here the first time, but I just wasn't so fortunate when I took out the Moonlight Butterfly much earlier. And just before that corpse falls off, I do get the unfortunately not particularly useful blood red moss clump. Why isn't it useful? Couple reasons. One is that if someone's building up bleed status effect on you, and you roll so that you're on a roll right as they trigger the bleed status effect, it procs the bleed effect while you're in your invincibility frames, and therefore you ignore all of the damage, so bleed does nothing to you if you can roll at the time it procs. On top of that, if you use a blood red moss clump while you're near somebody, they're probably just going to wail on you and do more damage and build up more bleed on you. So it's not a particularly practical thing to keep in your slot. Now, getting rid of poison is, because that's often inflicted from a distance deliberately. Most people don't like to inflict poison at the cost of having a weapon smack them in the face once or multiple times. It's alright, we're back down here. Because I don't have any other means of reaching Sif, I have to try and kill the Hydra. I don't think it's possible to climb up the ladder without killing the Hydra. I'm pretty sure that if you try that, it will always kill you. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure that that's the way it goes down. Now, unlike the other playthrough, I'm coming down here later in the game, and I have a maxed elemental weapon. And what that'll do is it'll let me one-shot these guys. Much more convenient than forcing the Hydra to kill them all. But then it occurred to me that I could go kill an Evil now, so I'm going to do that instead. I only realized just now in post-commentary that I missed an item there, and that was probably a blue Titanite chunk, since that's what those golems tend to drop. So that wasn't good, although I'm never going to use a magic scaling weapon. And yeah, I don't know why I did that stop and turn around. But what really shocks me is that he killed me in one hit. You'll see a very short future here. I'm going to get hit by him again and not die in one hit. And not even close to being a one-hit kill. Like, much different. I am wearing heavy armor, and I have put investment into... Well, I'm wearing medium armor. And I've put investment into vitality by now, so him one-shotting me is a little odd. He is pretty easily beaten early in the game. I saw in my comments way back on my last Let's Play attempt at this before I lost my hard drive on my Xbox, that someone wanted to see me try and take him on with like starting equipment. And you could either be like super pro mode and just parry all of his attacks and riposte, which I'm not good enough to do that consistently. I would probably take one hit and die at some point. Or you can just circle strafe while blocking and backstab him, and then start chain backstabbing him, which is much less skillful and also much easier to execute. There really wouldn't be much challenge in doing that. Grab the S-Stock from the bottom of New Londo, or not from the bottom, just from the entry into the New Londo, or even just buying a rapier from the Undead Merchant, because that has better criticals than the S-Stock does. Anything along those lines, and then chaining backstabs would be a cheesy but very easy way to kill Havel early. You probably want a decent stability shield if you block his attacks, but you can bait his attack and then run around to his back unlocked and backstab him without too much difficulty. And you can just do that over and over and over again. In fact, if you time it correctly, he doesn't even get a chance to move. And you're going to be doing well over 100 damage each time you pull that off, even with a +0 weapon. So what ends up happening is that it's just a chain BS game. Not the most amusing thing. I decided to try and go this way. I'm not sure which way was faster, but I didn't want to deal with other stuff along en route to the basin. This way might be faster, might be slower. I wanted to see. I figured, hey, while I'm here and I have the residence key, might as well get trapped by furniture, but also pick up some pine resin that I probably can't use. I never did go get that blue tearstone ring. It's not a common ring to wear. Red tearstone is much more common. I haven't picked that up either. But both of those, I don't know, unless you're going for hyper mode, like you're trying to abuse the red tearstone ring's damage along with other damage multipliers to give you like really powerful single attacks, or you're fighting at low levels on like multiple new game iterations where you need the damage. I could see it in those cases. But a lot of times those rings don't do much for you. It's very possible, in fact plausible, to have the red tearstone ring never proc for you in a fight. You just get killed from outside the range where it's relevant. Especially if you get backstabbed, but not, even if you don't. You might get just briefly staggered and the follow-up hit kills you, or you might get stun locked. Yeah, see, he's two-handing that, and he hit me while I was staggered by an attack from the hollow. And I didn't die. So I don't know why I died before. Maybe he used like an R2 or something and it does more damage. But geez, that's a huge differentiation in damage. I don't know. That's questionable. I don't know why he was able to one-shot me before. It'd be interesting to know. I went for a chain there. I didn't get it, but I killed him anyway. But even if you don't get a chain in that situation, you still have time to roll away. It's just not that difficult of a fight if you cheese him, and there's a lot of ways to cheese him. I guess you could, like, red tearstone ring and hornet ring, parry, riposte him. I bet that would do a ton of damage. You really need fast roll to roll out of that. Or you don't need it, but your window is so small if you don't have it that it's useful to have. But I really don't need the Hydra's help for these guys, so I'm just going to get these things out of the way, eat an attack. I'm surprised that staggered me. quite a lot of poise. I guess some things always stagger you, kind of like the fire attacks from those hollows down in the lower Undead Berg. Man, those guys are annoying. I wouldn't want to try and parry them on New Game Plus, they'd kill you. Even if you're pretty tanky, they'll kill you. Whiff and whiff. Not this time. Alright, so we are finally back to an old nemesis of ours from the first Let's Play, or Let's Cheese. Except for he wasn't really a nemesis so much as a time sink. Yeah. We're pretty much going to see a much less costly fight in terms of time usage. Unfortunately, I don't think I went and got the rusted iron ring before I came down here. This only occurred to me after I walked into the water, but that is a problem. Because now I am mid-rolling in water, where I'm slow. Whiff. The only major sticking point here with using like the Sway R2, you want to make sure you don't send yourself into the water. Like there's a cliff in front of me, and if I get too close, I will fall off that cliff and die. I'm not sure how I wasn't able to block those second and third hits. I had plenty of stamina and I was still holding the button. Whatever. Probably not a good idea to fight them locked on. Fighting them locked on is a problem from a number of respects, but the most common problem I find with it is that it will send you off the edge a lot, as it'll whip your camera angle around too much. So I'd rather just block and face them. I really don't have that much trouble blocking them doing that as opposed to locking on, so it's the better move, in my opinion. And alright, at this point, I'm looking at it, I saw that damage I did, and I'm like, well, okay, I can't reach these last couple heads too easily, and he's almost dead. So even with a crummy upgraded bow with like almost no damage at all, he only has a sliver of health left, and yeah, sure enough, easy kill. That's the Knight set over there. I guess I'll pick it up. The Knight set is arguably better than the Elite Knight set because it has the same amount of poise, only slightly weaker defenses, and it's also somewhat lighter. I think it's like 2 pounds lighter if you wear a full set. So that's pretty important. Poise is much more important than defense. Not that defense is useless, but poise is more important. And unfortunately, we are once again come upon an area that is going to take a little while. I think I'll share the pain on this one. And I think I'm going to have to restart. The only really noteworthy thing here is if you run kind of into the wall, you do get to move at full speed. So that does make this a little bit less painful if you don't have the rusted iron ring. Alternatively, you could go pick up the rusted iron ring. You don't even need to kill the stray demon to do it. But you know, if you're this far into the game where you're killing the Hydra, you might as well, because it's not a hard fight at this point. Like I said, it's doable to beat the stray demon with a +5 weapon. It would just take a little while. He has high health, much like the Gaping Dragon does. But man, at this point, it wouldn't even be a challenging fight. So everyone has fun names. Gooby, please. Yes, I remade Gooby. That's not the old Gooby. That's the new Gooby. So here too, this fight is going to be much less painful than the previous attempt at it. Come on. So slow in the water. And I whiff. There's no range on that. Now surprisingly, you can stagger the golems with one hit with the two-handed R2. I didn't know you could stagger the golems at all.
I cometh from
Like, that's crazy. Those things look like something you couldn't stagger. There are things in this game you can't stagger, no matter what. Like, if you hit Quillag anywhere on the spider form of her body, it's impossible. You cannot stagger her. I mean, I suppose killing her staggers her, but that doesn't really count. No, Quillag is an example. there are some other enemies that are almost impossible to stagger, or would require so much that I don't see how you could do it without killing them first. And now I'm blanking on which ones those are. But I know there are others. Anyway, we have to go all the way back through the water. Roll, roll, roll. It's like watching Ocarina of Time. Or what used to be you would see in Ocarina of Time. You don't ever really see speedrunners rolling too much anymore in that. Now and then they will. But bomb sliding and like walking backwards and such have become the more popular ways to speedrun that game. It's pretty amusing to watch. If you haven't watched like a world record or close to it, Ocarina of Time Let's Play, I recommend it because it's hilarious. I don't know why I picked that up. I probably won't be using any of these sorceries, but I'm not hurting at this point, so might as well grab a few things since I'm here anyway. Now, one thing I do want to get is the Crown of Dusk. You know, I guess I haven't committed to Elemental permanently on this build. I could turn it into an Intelligence build, in which case having some of this stuff is handy, especially multiple copies of it. But in the case of an Intelligence build, like I would make one of my weapons into plus 15 and then cast Crystal Magic Weapon on them, for example. And so that would be useful. For the amount of souls it takes now, it's not that much to commit to. The other useful thing, and the reason I'm bothering with doing all this at all, really, is the Crown of Dusk. And while I won't be wearing it too much for... Well, I won't really be wearing it at all for most of this playthrough. It is very handy to have the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring and the Crown of Dusk in multiplayer PvP if you are invading into situations where you can be ganked. Because what you can do then is, if you invade into a gank and you're not just getting hit with like Tranquil Walk of Peace and Wrath of Gods and Dark Beads right on spawn, then you have a chance. And one of the things I like to do a lot, especially when I invade in the forest, you know, whether I'm a Dark Wraith or a Forest Hunter, if I'm invading into a gank, I will wait for help, and I will do that near the ladder. Now, they can come down there if they want, but the problem is, if they jump down, they take damage, and I can jump on them with a stun lock. There's a good chance I'll kill somebody that way. Plus, it's precarious to jump down in the first place. If they don't, if they slide down the ladder, I can see that. And as soon as they start sliding quickly, I start casting Fire Tempest while boosted. Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring and Crown of Dusk together will one-shot the vast majority of builds with Fire Tempest. There are very few builds, I mean, aside from like Vitality Gouges with fire resistance, or just like a Mask of Mother with 50 Vitality, Ring of Favor Protection, and fire resistant gear. Okay, you might survive it then, although you will not be in good shape. But the vast majority of gank builds will be one-shotted by that combination. If you have power within, I'm pretty sure one-shots everyone. And I decide to go over and get that item. I forgot what it was. I mean, I know now, but at the time I did not. So yeah, actually it's this ladder, I think, right here. Yeah. If they slide down this ladder, Fire Tempest. You could also use Forest or Wrath of Gods or all kinds of cheap nonsense if they try and follow you down there as a ganking team. And, you know, what else can they do? They can drop down. But you can still force and wog them and stuff, so... It's a pretty good anti-gank area for a number of reasons. If they fall into the water there too, they're dead. That's a death pit. And yes, I'm braving the Bearcats. I know you can just go up where the Ents are, run past everything, including the Forest Hunters, and avoid fighting anything in the big forest whatsoever. But I hadn't fought the Bearcats in pretty much forever, so I wanted to see what it was like to take them on. I know they can be pretty tough. What the heck is that thing doing? Now, when I first played this area and went for them, I realized only too late that they have a grab attack that hits through a shield. In other words, they bite you. and then they kind of sling you around like a dog would sling around like a rabbit that it gets in its mouth or something. It's a damaging attack. It killed me when that happened. I think in New Game Plus, you would have to be some kind of tanky build to survive it in New Game Plus. And after a couple New Game Pluses, I don't think anyone can live through that. This is another good place to run against gankers, as these things can very easily kill a ganker. I mean, I rolled out of the way and only got hit by that once, and look at the damage it did. If you get caught by that, it's very painful. And the bow utility I mentioned earlier is come into play here. I was able to pull one of these. Fighting two of these at once is an unpleasant experience, to say the least. But instead, that turned out to be relatively easy. Relatively. I mean, I took some hits, but I didn't get myself killed. And now it is truly a straight shot to Sif. I could stop for the Enchanted Ember. And that is one of the fastest embers to get if you want to rush it. It's guarded by mushroom parents, but they're really slow. You could probably pull them away from it and get it without killing them. Although, you know, if you're low level, they will kill you in one hit. In fact, I think their strong attack could kill me in one hit right now, very easily. There are some very amusing pictures of the mushroom parents on like Google Images or whatever. My favorite is like based on real events or whatever, and instead of looking like the mushroom parents currently do, it's just some like, you know, bodybuilder type of build flexing its muscles. Because yeah, that's about what it feels like when the thing punches you. I have had like very high vitality builds get one-shotted by the mushroom parents that show up in the Great Hollow. Even on regular new game, it's nasty. But alright, here we have Sif. He's not a very difficult boss, and if you have a high stability shield, he's even easier. You can just roll out of all these attacks too, but the flexibility of being able to block these attacks means that you can stay closer to his attack range and then run in once he's committed to certain attacks. The big ones are the spin attack. You can almost always run in and get a running attack after he does that spin. And he's doing it again. Yep. And if you hit him right as he's jumping back, he'll even take extra damage. So that's one thing you can do. And then another one that's easy to play off of is this one. He'll do those two horizontal swings, and sometimes he'll do a third vertical swing, but as long as you're locked on and running sideways, his vertical swing is going to miss. So just go in after the second swing. That attack you really can't follow up on very easily. And his one where he attacks you and then flips away at the same time as attacking you, you're really not going to be able to do a whole lot about that either. Yeah, the timing is a little sticky, but the other thing you can do is just block and run underneath him and attack his legs. It's a pretty simple way to fight him, but it works. And I'm not sure why he did that move there, because he couldn't hit me. And I was able to do a lot of damage. That was an odd AI choice. Wow. Rather than getting pissy boss mode, they made him and Qualag slower when they're really injured. I'm not sure on the rationale for that. But it certainly makes the end of the fight easier. And then I pick up everyone's favorite ring. Gotta love that ring. That ring should be used exclusively. In fact, I think you should be able to use two of them and have it stack. Trollolol. But okay, we have the Covenant of Artorias. And we've cleared the forest area and received some souls in the process. So we're doing pretty well. I would recommend buying the Crest of Artorias because it's less painful than fighting the Hydra, but that's a perfectly viable approach to take as well. And so, off we go. I want to be able to join the Dark Wraith's Covenant, so we know where I'm going next. Yes, the Four Kings. I'll see you in the next part, viewers. Me and team, signing off.